Okay, so today we are going to begin our class for the subject British novel. And this is MEG 3, MEG 3 British novel. So the whole thing is known as MEG, and MEG 3 is the British novel, which is a core subject. And in the MEG 3, I mean, in the British novel, you have all these different blocks to study. Block number one is Henry Fielding, Tom Jones. The work is called Tom Jones and the writer is called Henry Fielding. And second block will be Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Then you have Wuthering Heights. Then you have Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And you have Middlemarch by George Eliot. You have Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Then you have A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. Then A Passage to India by Edward Morgan Foster. Then you have The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Sprague. Now, there are the other subjects like British poetry, but like British drama. So compared to British drama and British, poetry, I started with the British novel because it's a bit easier, comparatively, it's easier to study. So that's why I'm starting from British novel. So, and you need to understand we have 9 different blocks. See, one thing that you need to keep it in mind is these all are novels, kind of stories. So you should have a passion for literature. And that is the only possibility of, becoming a good student of a literature. There should be a passion within you where, you feel like, okay, I love to read these books, your mind, in your brain, the thoughts of literature and what the literary works and all these things should always be in your mind. So that will help you to become a good literature student. So, so British novel is the subject, and within the British novel, we have the first block as Tom Jones by Henry Fielding, and so here, each of these novels will be divided into different units. So, okay, so we are going to discuss about unit number 1. Let me see if it is available here. Yeah, here you have all the different units here. So, basically it will be an introductory part where we are going to discuss about some aspects of fiction. It will be like a, an introduction for all the different blocks, for all the novels, it's going to be an introduction. So when you study unit number 1, it is not only about, Tom Jones, but it's actually about all the different novels that we are going to discuss in future. So give, special attention to the first unit, because when you study the different aspects of fiction, you can like write answers, or you can find answers for the other blocks also. So give more attention to the first unit, that is some aspects of fiction, that we are going to discuss it today. Then we have the second unit as we first read Tom Jones. Then you have your third unit, important thematic areas in Tom Jones. Fourth unit, characters as characterizations in the fourth unit. Fifth unit, artistic unity or socio-cultural concerns. Sixth unit, feminist concerns in Fielding. Seventh unit, some critical opinions on Tom Jones. Eighth unit, narration in fiction and third world preferences. So these are the different units that we are going to discuss. See, you may feel like, there is so much to study, but Do not approach your studies on such a way. Always, approach the studies with a, with a mindset of, okay, I have this much to learn. So it's really good that I can learn a lot. In IGNO, when you study, they give a lot of portions to cover. So do not approach, the text by thinking that, okay, I have so much to study, but approach the text by thinking that, I can't study this much. So that approach you need, because there is so much to cover. And do not worry about examination. If you really, go through the text, and if you really have a better understanding, passing the exam will not be a difficult thing. It will not be, such a difficult thing. Often what happen, students, since, the portions are too much, they do not really spend time on learning. They just try to study only for passing the exam. That is one of the main reason why people are not able to qualify the exam. So if you want to qualify the exam, have a in-depth knowledge, and you don't have to worry about the portions. You will surely pass the exam. Okay, so let's go for unit one. Give a special attention to unit one, because this unit is going to give you a basic introduction for not only for this block, but it is going to give you a general introduction for all the blocks that you're going to study in the future. Okay, so take your time. Have a passion to study literature. Do not think it's a okay, somehow, don't approach literature study by thinking that, okay, let me study everything the day before exam, or I can just pass the exam by preparing it maybe just before the examination, maybe 2 3 months I can spare and I can pass the exam. Do not approach literature with such a mindset, because it's not if that's a mindset, it's not easy. It may not be even possible to pass the examination. So do not approach with such a mindset. Uh, Always have the mindset that, okay, I want to study more, I want to learn more. What's with such an approach, you have to come for the literature study. So here we have the first unit, and the topic, the unit number one, the heading is some aspects of fiction. So that's what we are going to discuss today. Some aspects of fiction. And on the structure, I mean, the unit, it will be like this. The structure they have already given it in the beginning. You have the objectives, then you have the introduction, then you have the novel, then you have the, within the novel, there is a subheading, the novel as fiction, then the fiction as history. Then you have again the main topic, the evolution of the novel. Then you have some problems, then shifted to prose in the 18th century, then the novel as a literary form, then the novel as comedy, then final of summing up. So that's will all about the structure. Let's go to the objectives. As the word fiction, you know the word fiction, right? As the word fiction is all about, talking about the stories. Hmm? So here we have I just gave the definition for fiction. So what do you mean by fiction? Fiction means imaginary writing. So what do you mean by fiction? You need to have the basic understanding of some of these concepts, and I think you didn't had a literature background in your bachelor's. So so I'm just explaining some of the basic terms also. It will be a great help for you. Give your undivided attention. Fiction. What do you mean by fiction? Fiction means imaginary writing. Fiction basically means an imaginary writing. So it's a type of literature that is made up from the author's imagination. So Subhojit, so you didn't had a your bachelor's was not in the literature. So I'm going to give you some in-depth understanding of even some of the words. So we're talking about fiction. So fiction means imaginary writing. So what do you mean by imaginary writing? A type of literature that is made up from the author's imagination, not necessarily based on real events. The characters, places, and stories may be realistic, but they are not true in a factual sense. So, when what do you mean by fiction? Fiction is an imaginary writing. But one thing that you have to keep in mind as a literature student is that no writer can write in vacuum. No writer can write in vacuum. What does that mean? No writer can write in vacuum. See, some of the sentences what I say when I give importance to such sentences, you can use them in your examination, because when you use them in your examination, what will happen is like when the teacher reads that, they will understand, okay, you have really did a good job, you really studied, so that will help you to get good marks. So this is a very good statement to mention in the answer sheet, like no writer writes in vacuum. So no writer writes in vacuum means nobody can just write, without having any context. Every writer, even though they are writing a fiction, they are writing an imaginative novel, uh, when they only like you can only make a building when there is a basement. Without a basement, you cannot make a building. In the same manner, even if a writer is writing a fiction, even if a writer is writing something out of his imagination, he has to have some base, so they like he may take a small incident and he may change the name, and he may further elaborate it, he will further bring his imagination. But at the beginning, there will be a base. There will be a small story. There will be something or the other from where he builds up his story, that you need to understand. So fiction, okay, so no writer can write in vacuum. So every writer, whoever it may be, they will always have something or the other from where they build up their stories. So fiction means imaginary writing. It is a type of literature that is made up from the author's imagination, not necessarily based on real events. The characters, places, and stories may be realistic, may not be realistic, but they are not true in a factual sense. Okay. It may not be true in a factual sense. Just give me 1 second. Right? Oh, no problem. It's just raining. So some voice just came out and I was thinking what was happening. So that is all about the fiction. Okay, so the novel as fiction that we discussed. And as a sub point for the novel, you have the 1.2.2, the fiction as history. So fiction as a history. Then again, you have the next main point, like the evolution of the novel. There you have some problems, and shifted to prose in the 18th century. So in the 18th century, you have a shift, to the prose that we will study. Okay, that we will study further. We will study further. Then you have the novel essay. So what do you mean by prose? Yeah, that we will discuss and we will go further. So novel we already discussed. And what do you mean by prose? So for prose is again a form of writing. Prose is again a form of writing that is written in ordinary everyday language. So unlike poetry and unlike novel, prose is a form of writing that is written in ordinary everyday language without a special rhythm or rhyme, unlike poetry. So what is a prose? Yeah, keep it in mind. Prose is a form of writing. Prose is a form of writing that is written in ordinary everyday language without a special rhythm or rhyme. Without a special rhythm or rhyme, unlike poetry. So, okay. So when you study prose, you will always see like it is not like the poetry. It is not like the poetry where you have a specific rhythm and a rhyme. So now prose is just a form of writing in ordinary everyday language. So prose is normal written or spoken language used in stories, essays, articles, and everyday communication. So then 1.3.2 shift to prose in the 18th century. 1.3.3, the novel as a new literary form. 1.3.4, the novel as comedy. And finally, summing up. One more thing, what do you mean by comedy and tragedy? So it is, just keep these two words also in your mind. So comedy is like when we hear the word comedy, we often think that comedy is something that is funny or that is something that makes us laugh. That is not what comedy is all about in literature. Comedy is something that has a happy ending, and tragedy is something that has a sad ending. So comedy is something that has a happy ending, and tragedy is something that has a sad ending. Now, here we are going for the objectives. Even though we are going in deep, in this introductory portion, but what you need to understand is, if you give, your undivided attention for these portions, you will be able to answer or you'll be able to understand many of the important concepts that we are going to study later. So that's why I am I'm taking time and going through these portions in deep. Okay, so we are discussing in a elaborate manner. Why? As we discuss it, in such a manner, you will be able to, and you'll be able to understand the concepts as we move forward. Objectives. As the word fiction possesses problems or carries problem, the aim of this unit is to examine the relationship between fictional and realistic depiction. Some of the things you may not understand right now, but do not, just stop learning because of that. Even though you're not understanding everything, continue to learn whatever you can learn. That should be your attitude. You may not understand everything that you are going to learn. Since you didn't come from a literature background, you may not understand everything, but what you have to do is, whatever you're not able to understand, just leave it. Eventually, you will be able to understand. And possible, if possible, please try to understand it with the help of a chat GPT or a dictionary or something or the other means. But do not just, stop studying, thinking that, okay, I didn't understand this thing. Okay, I'm just leaving my studies. Do not do that. Okay. And you can always approach me with all of your doubts. As the word fiction possesses problems, the aim of this unit is to examine the relationship between fiction and realistic depiction. So I already told you about fiction, about imaginary stories and the realities. The novel can be seen as dealing with questions, issues, as well as with the facts of history. So what we can see in the novel, we can see with lots of questions, we can see a lot of issues, and we can also see a lot of facts in the history. There are lots of novels written based on the real incidences that happened in the world. And novel can provoke questions. Novel can make people to think. It deals with issues. The 18th century is a century of prose as well as the rise of the novel. So the 18th century. Okay. What do you mean by 18th century? What, like, from what date to what date is called the 18th century? Yeah, it is 1701 to 1800. 17 not 1701 to 1800 is the period called the 18th century. When you say 19th century, it will be 1801 to 1900. So the 18th century. Okay. Just one second. Right? Yeah. So 18th century, the period is 1701 to 1800. And understand, the 18th century is also a period of, just keep it in mind, period of enlightenment. That means the rise of reason, science, and human rights. It's a period of revolutions. American and French revolutions reshaped the politics. And again, colonial expansion, 18th century. That means 1701 to 1800. European empires grew globally, and industrial beginnings, factories, machines, steam power started to emerge. Social change, questioning kings, churches, and class systems. So these are some of the major things, themes that you have to keep it in mind when you are studying about the 18th century. So 18th century is an important period. Understand? You have the enlightenment. So people started to think, when you reach the 18th century, the people started to think more and more. One of the reason for people to start thinking was people's basic needs were met. Till that period, people were really suffering for food, water, shelter. You may have heard about the Maslow's hierarchy theory. So when people are struggling for their basic needs, they may not be thinking about anything else. So when the basic needs are met, they will be thinking further about the other things. So in the 18th century, we see the rising of reason. People started to ask questions. If you say something, they will say, okay, what is the reason? Can you prove that? So there was the science coming up, there was the human rights coming up, and you have the revolutions called the American and French revolutions coming up and reshaping the politics. You have the colonial expansion, European empire growing globally, industrial beginning. There were lots of factories, there were lots of machines, steam power starting to emerge. Questioning kings, churches, class systems. When people, when there was this industrial revolution, people start to get job, and they start to earn income, and they could eat food, and then they start to have more leisure time, and they start to read, and they start to think. So all such things are happening in the 18th century. So 18th century is a very important period in the aspect of literature also. The 18th century is the century of prose as well as the rise of the novel. We see lots of novels being written at the period of the 18th century, with both prose and the novel focusing on the common ways of life. The novel emerged as a new and sorry, the novel emerged as a new and significant mode of writing. So, how the novel emerged? The novel emerged as a new and significant mode of writing, becoming more than a means of providing entertainment. So, when you study literature, do not just think that okay, literature is like literature is written for the purpose of only to make people, to just to kill the time. The literature is written. Do not think in that manner. Literature or the writer, when they write, they want so much thing to convey to the people. If I am writing something, I want my authors to learn something or the other. If I talk, people may not be able to, understand that. But when I write something, people will be able to understand it better. So literatures or the novel or the prose or the drama, these were not written, just for the sake of entertainment. It was not written only for the sake of entertainment, but these were written so that the author wanted to communicate something to the people, often written with the purpose of educating the people, to give them knowledge, to make them aware about something. So these all purposes were also met with the writings of the novel. So the novel emerged as a new and significant mode of writing, becoming more than a means of providing entertainment. See the sentence. It became a means of radical questioning that would lead to a change in the entrenched attitudes. So, what is literature? What is novel becoming? It became a means of. It became a means of radical questioning. Radical questioning that would lead to a change in entrenched. What do you mean by entrenched? Attitude. Entrenched means something that is firmly fixed or deeply established and is very hard to change. So such attitudes started to change. Okay. So the novels made people to question some of the things they believed are never supposed to be questioned. See, even we have some belief system, right? We say, okay, yeah, concerning that matter, no questions are asked. Whatever somebody say, you have to believe. So that's called the entrenched attitudes. That is something that is strongly established within you, and it's very difficult to remove. So whoever tell you that's not right, or you never agree with that. You will always say, no, no, no. This is what I believe. This is what my forefathers believed, and I'm now never going to change. So such kind of questions, such kind of things also started to be changed because the people started to ask radical questions. It could be of anything else. Maybe like sometimes of our food habit. We you are from again from Calcutta, right? And again from West Bengal. So like Kerala, you may be eating a lot of rice. So somebody is coming and telling you, see, rice is not good for health. It contains this and that. And you say, no, we from our generations, we have been eating the rice and we're not going to change it. But then as you getting educated, you started to understand understanding that okay, rice is not good, and then you are, that entrenched attitude is changing. So entrenched means that something that is firmly fixed or deeply established. The aim is to discuss these questions in the course of these units. So some of these questions we are going to discuss as we study further. Introduction. This is the first unit of the first block in your course on the British novel. So this is the first unit of the first block in your course on the British novel. As such, you will find that we discuss some basic issues here, which will help you to understand not just Tom Jones, but also the subsequent novels prescribed. So go through each section critically and carefully. See, this is what I have already told you in the beginning. Do not approach this unit, by thinking that, okay, I will give a less attention to this unit, and I will give more attention to the other units. Do not do that. The reason is this unit is going to give you a good understanding and a good a base for the other units. Okay, so for all the other lessons, this unit is going to greatly help you. So what you need to do is give spend more time for these units, and we are going to discuss in details these units, and this preliminary unit, so that we will have a better understanding of all the blocks that we are going to study in the future. So this is the first unit, and as such, you will find that we discuss some basic issues here. So we are going to discuss some of the basic issues here and understand that this is not only these issues are not exclusively dealing with Tom Jones. These issues are, dealing with other novels also. So the issues that we are going to discuss here are not only for Tom Jones, but it is for all other novels. So we are going to spend a little more time here, but that's worth spending. So go through each section carefully and critically. Do not just follow whatever it is written, but you have to think critically. Now, understand you are doing a master's degree, and understand not many people have got the opportunity to do a master's degree. And so many who have joined for a master's could not complete that. So as you are beginning the course, I just want to warn you, be careful, give, more time. And when you complete your master's degree, it's worth completing. Okay. There are not many people who have completed their masters. There are people, but I'm just saying when you take the average. So there are, now you're doing a master's degree, you will need to read widely and variously. So what you have to do is you have to be a you know a reader who you just need to read and read and read and read, and you have to spend a lot of time in reading. Understand? You may not get enough time for that, but you have to find your own time. That's the way how people succeed. Try and find some of the books on the novel recommended at the end of the blog from your local library. So you have a library, accessible to you. So please go and see if there are books, or else try to download it from different sources. If you pay little money, you will be able to download. And you have more to reading even from your textbook. So I would really say, first of all, you spend more time in reading the textbook test. And after doing that, you can go for other books. Otherwise, you may not reach anywhere. So for time being, let's concentrate on the textbook and try to read these alongside this unit. It's not compulsory for you to read these books, but reading them will certainly enhance your understanding of the novel as a literary form. So we will wind up here, and that will be the end of our first class. And we